Okay, just gonna go ahead and say it. Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel La Fraise. I'm Noémie, and this week I want to share something super exciting with you. If you've seen my video from Monday, you know I've been panicking about this quite a bit and overthinking a ton, but I'm going to try to express to you how exciting this is. And yes, it's a bit worrying, but it's also exciting, mainly exciting. So I'm actually going back to school in September for sewing. Oh my god, this is crazy. So I actually have been listening to the Love to Sew podcast. That's something I already mentioned a few times. And in the podcast, one of the hosts, Caroline, has actually been to sewing school. And I kept finding this like so cool, and like, you know, they have proper training and everything. And, you know, I just learned stuff on my own, kind of like off the cuff. So yes, I was kind of like fascinated by the fact that some people studied this at school. But at the same time, my school years are far behind me. I have studied linguistics back in the days, and you know, that's it. I was like, I can't go back to school. Why could I? And what kind of happened is that I've been thinking a lot about my work and my career and everything. And I went to this career coach who really encouraged me. It was a bit weird. She was kind of just like, oh, you like theatre and you like sewing, you should become a costume maker. I was a bit like, not sure, and you'll see that's a bit of a weight point in the whole story with them, like costume making. I know, at least in Belgium, I know from people who are in the industry, like it's quite a stressful environment. And I was like, I don't do very well with stress. And also, you know, it can be a bit of like evening and weekend work, which I'm also not super keen on. I was like, it's really not for me, like costume making. Also, I have a body that has been constructed not optimally, so I don't think I could work sewing all day, and that it would really not work for my body and be too painful. Okay, I realized that I did cut a couple of corners and I got a bit carried away with my story, but what I kind of wanted to say is that I am not planning on becoming a costume maker. So I am going to do those studies of costume making, but more for whatever it's going to bring me. And I don't know yet what it is that it's going to bring me. So what I know for an immediate future is that the classes sound very interesting, and I'm hoping to learn very cool techniques and very good things. I'm hoping that it's going to be interesting for my channel, but long term, I'm more thinking maybe I can give workshops with the interesting techniques I will have learned, or I can do God knows what. That's a little bit the question mark. I don't know yet what I want to do with those studies. Maybe I will do nothing. Maybe it's just 3 years of interesting learning, and that's fine too. I just wanted to re-clarify, no, I'm not planning on becoming a costume maker, but then maybe, who knows? I'm leaving everything open, but I'm not really picturing leaving my work. I am, however, thinking of maybe becoming a part-time freelancer and doing stuff on the side, and those stuffs, I don't know what it could be, but I'm just thinking, as part of the course, you do a lot of work experience. I'm like, well, through my work experience, I will meet people, discover new things, discover how it is on the spot and what the job truly entails. And so maybe through that work experience, I will realize that I like that aspect or that aspect, and it's going to clarify what I want to do or what I don't want to do. So I hope that just clarifies that point of like, I'm not becoming a costume maker in the coming 3 years. I will learn skills, and I have no clue what I'm doing with the skills afterwards, but I'm kind of going one step at a time. I hope that it's going to be an enjoyable process, and we'll see what it comes afterwards. And it's also a little bit of work for me to let go and not have a super concrete plan on what's coming afterwards. So I was really like, okay, great, but costume making not for me. But the coach was like, homework for next week, you find a course and you just like look at the program. So I'm a good student. I do what I'm asked. So for my homework, I find a course and I look at the program and I'm like, oh, it looks like super cool. The classes are super cool. That's something I would do just for like my general like enjoyment and not even for like doing anything afterwards. And it's like, oh, and like, you know, it's in the evening and on the weekend, like it's even something I could do alongside work. That's kind of cool. So I was like, that's it, I'm happy. And then the coach's like, now you're going to go to the school and get information. I was like, what? I thought that the homework was like, look at the thing, look online. I was very proud of myself, and I was like, this is where we can stop. Like, we have looked, and that's where it stops. And no, she was like, no, you like go and look and go and see the vibes and everything. And yeah, long story short, I'm now enrolled to be a costume maker in the next 3 years. So I'm enrolled for my first year, obviously, but the whole course is 3 years. And it truly felt like it was meant to be, because the costume making class was full. So I was like, well, you know, I arrived too late, costume making is full, there's no more spots. But I did put myself on the waiting list, and I was looking because they also had just fashion design as another class, and I was like, oh, some of the classes are similar, but I was more interested in the costume making. So I was like, maybe I go into fashion design, which was this really weird thing where I was second on the waiting list for costume, but if I went into fashion and registered for that, I would lose my spot on the waiting list for costume. So yada yada yada. Like, I have lots of chat with the school, they're very helpful, they recommend like how to do it so that I ended up having a spot somewhere, because I was like, well, I didn't want to lose my spot in the waiting list, but I also didn't want to wait so long that fashion design is out of spots as well. So I was kind of like, oh, what do I do? And the school had said like, wait a week to see what happens, because we're trying to open a new class for costume making. And literally the next day or 2 days after, I got an email saying like, congratulations, you got a spot. And it was really like, oh my God, like it went from a vague plan, a vague like looking at a program, to I have a spot in that program, and you know, and then it was like, you can come and enroll and everything. So I did all of that, and it was really, really exciting to, you know, like enroll. I also feel like in this adult world I have to live in, you don't have this structure anymore. You know, it's September, it's back to school time, and you have like that time, you have your exam, and then you start again, and like that cycle. And I was like, oh, the idea of like going back to school in September feels really energizing and really cool. So yeah, so that's basically how I arrived. And I arrived and I got, you know, like my student email, student password, so I can like soon hopefully see my timetable. I don't have it online yet. At the moment, it's like super unclear for me how everything's gonna work out, because I don't have my like finished timetable, like what's happening. I have a list of materials I need to buy, and I realized I needed to buy a ton of stuff. And looking at the list, I like really couldn't find the material, like it was very confusing. I will insert a clip. I think it's like the day off or the day just after I enrolled, and I was totally freaking out. So enjoy a little freak out. Hey, I thought I'd film a little bit for the vlog, because I know that I really tend to have rose-tinted glasses when I look at the past, and today was quite a stressful day in the end, and I feel like when I'll be rethinking about it, I'll be like, no, it was great, everything's fine, I loved it. So I just kind of wanted to share how it truly was with you guys. And this afternoon I went to enroll for my costume maker course. I mean, I'm not sure what the translation in English would be, but costume maker class. And I kind of panicked, because the information between the website, what I've been told on the phone, and then when I arrived today, the information today was once more different. And they were like, yeah, you're gonna have class every Saturday all day. And I'm going to do this course on top of work, and you know, it's going to be like evening, weekend type of thing. And then at some point I'm also going to have to fit in some work experience. It's a 3 years course. I'm sure I'm going to have told you this in the official part, but so I was like, every Saturday. And I also, that's only for 3 months at the start of the year, but I also am in a musical and I have rehearsal for 4 hours plus 1 hour trip, so 6 hours out of the house every Sunday. So I was like, oh my God, my Sundays and my Saturday are totally gone, and it's going to be awful, and it's going to be too much. And I was really like, I need to run, I can't do this, I'm gonna cancel. I was like looking if I could get my money back, which you kind of can if you cancel before August. Then you lose some of your money for administrative fees, but you could get some of your money back. But then I was like, well, if I cancel in August, I won't have even tried the classes, and that's kind of what would be cool. Then, because when I went to enroll, they talked a lot about introduction to sewing, and I was like, well, I don't need introduction to sewing, I can sew, so I don't need that. And then I got my list of material to buy, and I was really like, I have to buy new scissors because my scissors are not the right ones for this, and I have to buy new pins because my pins are not the one you can sew over, and I have to buy new chalk because my chalk's not the right color. And I was like, for me, sewing, like I always enjoyed sewing in a minimalist way, and now it's like I have to buy all of those things. I was really excited to buy a notebook, like not, you know, all of my material all over again. And I remember I told you in a video like, oh, this is my tracing tool, and now I have to actually buy all of the fancy rulers and everything. And I don't know, I also didn't realize the cost it would be, because they just tell you the cost of the classes, but then as I enrolled, and this had never been mentioned before, and maybe I should have imagined, but I kind of thought you would use the material that's there in the studio. I don't know, maybe it was stupid of me to assume, but I was like, wow, that's a lot of things to buy. And they're like, you're also gonna have to buy the fabric, and then you're gonna have to buy like photo shoots and stuff, so I guess for like your final collection or whatever. I don't know, it just felt really overwhelming. It felt like the timetables were not really what I was expecting. It felt like the materials I have to purchase, they're like, you need to buy a dress form. I was like, where am I going to put a dress form in this apartment? Like, I was totally freaking out. I think Milo's coming back from his walk. He comes and say goodnight when he's back from his walk. Wait a second. Yay! Well, my wife is back from Milo's walk, so I'm going to leave you there. I just wanted to say, like, in the end, my wife was great. She was like, no, but like, you'll be fine. We'll buy a dress form secondhand. You can sell it after the class if you don't want to keep it. And I kind of thought I would keep my sewing material that I use at home at the moment as is, and I'm going to build myself a school box of material that I can take to school, and that's going to be easier to have maybe separate boxes, and that means that my current box doesn't need to become unminimalistic. I don't know, it helps in my head. I also re-looked at all of the classes and got really excited, so the panic kind of left and we're good to go, and I'm back to being excited. But yeah, coming back from enrolling, I was a little bit overwhelmed. Okay, so I'm just back from the store and I got myself 2 notebooks to go back to school. This is so exciting. I had actually seen those quite a while back. This one I think it was a slightly different one, but in the same style kinda. And I really wanted to buy notebooks, but I was trying not to buy notebooks without a reason. But now I got enrolled yesterday, so I thought it was a good moment to treat myself with a little notebook. I got 2, I couldn't resist. I'll see, maybe this one is going to become another YouTube notebooks, because I use quite a few of those. Take notes what I sewed. This way, by the end of the project, I know what's important to tell. But maybe I'll use it for school, I'll see. I'll keep it for school and I'll see how much I use the notebook or not. And I got this one, I got 10% off because it's a bit damaged here. It's a bullet journal, I thought that was quite nice, not too big, so it's easy to put in my smaller backpack. It's also cardboard. I think it's like those children's books, you know, that have like cardboard pages on either side, so it's really sturdy, so I feel like it's gonna survive well in the middle of everything. I also thought the fact that it's already damaged maybe is a good thing, because it's gonna make me less precious about it. And I wanted a bullet journal because as it's for sewing school, you know, maybe I'll have to do drawings and stuff, and I thought that the bullet format made sense. So happy. That's it. I never buy notebooks because I first have to use all of the ones I have, so this is a big moment. And this one, yeah, this one I'll have to see if it makes sense for school or not. It's lined. But yeah, those ones is the ones I tend to use either as sewing notebook or as YouTube notebook, so it's going to have a purpose. But yeah, that's this one says notes, embrace the day, and this one just says bullet journal. It's like this on the other side. Here we are, tiny haul, but that makes me, that was really, if you have been watching my videos for a very long time, there is a video that has a very random haul in the middle, and in this haul I think I filmed those notebooks, and I'm like, oh, at least this one I'm pretty sure. I'm like, oh, I really like them, but I don't have a reason to buy a notebook. No, I do. So yeah, so my wife was amazing at being super rational about all this, and I think I literally have a little list in front of me of all the things that are worrying me about this whole experience, and I want to share it with you just to be transparent with you and, you know, share how it actually feels, because it is so exciting, but it's also very worrying in many ways. And I'm gonna share it with you, not for you to like reassure me, because I know that it's all stuff like we're just gonna go in it and see. But yeah, my wife was amazing at being very rational about it, and when I was full of emotion and very stressed, she was really great. And yeah, I'm super happy to be enrolled in this program and to be starting that in September. So this is how I enrolled. Practically, this is evening and weekend classes. So that means that I'm going to do this alongside my work. This is not even in my list of stress, but like this is going to be a lot probably, especially because from September to November I also have musical rehearsals, because my wife Milo and I are the three of us singing. Well, Milo's not really singing, but we are all performing in Legally Blonde at the end of November. So we have 3 months of quite intense rehearsal, and that means that I have one evening a week which is spent at rehearsal, but then I also have other evenings at school, and then Saturday I'm at school all day, and on Sunday I'm in rehearsal most of the day as well. So it really feels like in one fell swoop all my weekends from September to November have gone, which feels slightly traumatic, but I'm like, I know it's 3 months, it's going to be intense for 3 months, but then it's going to be better. Once I have only class on Saturday and no longer rehearsal on Sunday, it's going to be more manageable. So I know it's going to be 3 intense months, but it's going to be okay. Yeah, basically what I wanted to say is that I'm not quitting my job to do this. Like, I'm not being like, woo, like no more responsibility. Like, no, while I'm at school, I still, need to work and need to make a living. So not quitting my job. What does that mean for you? Well, it already means that I have cut down to 1 video a week, which you have already noticed because I'm already at 1 video a week, except when I have exceptional announcements like I'm doing today, but it's going to be mostly 1 video a week. And at the moment in August, when I have time, I'm like sewing up a storm, and I'm pre-filming quite a few videos that are going to help me in September to November. If I really don't have time to sew, I really want to have those videos in the bank. So what I'm kind of picturing is that it's going to be a mix of like maybe every other week it's a pre-filmed video versus a normal video. I don't know if it's going to be obvious to you or not. If I dye my hair pink, then you will notice, but otherwise I don't know if it's going to be bothersome or if you're going to notice that it's pre-filmed. But in any case, between you and me, I'm pre-filming a ton. Like, I have pre-filmed video planned until end of November basically, even though it's not all the videos, but I'm really trying to plug gaps so that I don't need to make 1 video a week during that busy time. But I'm also thinking, like, for you, I can't promise anything. I really don't have any clue what it's going to be like when I'm going to be able to create, but I'm thinking probably I'm going to learn interesting things, and then I can share those with you, and that can become interesting video content, but also maybe vlogs into the life of a sewing student. And well, anything you are interested in, I'm actually curious, like, if anything about sewing school interests you, let me know. And also in the coming weeks, probably mid to end September, because I need to first actually buy my school materials, but I'm also going to do a school haul because I need to buy so much for my first classes. So I'm also going to do a little haul. I have bought just a couple of things, but they're already very exciting, but I'll definitely do a haul so that you can see what I need to go to school as a sewing student. It feels crazy to say that. Oh my god, sewing students are like very exciting. Like, I'm glad I make this video because I feel like I have been really in my head about all this for a while now. And saying it, I'm like, no, that is happy news, and that is good news. I'm really happy. And actually, before I go on my list of worries, I would like to say that I'm kind of interested in maybe doing a Q&A. If you have any questions for me related to school or just in general about sewing, about my life, like if you have anything you want to ask me, I'm happy to talk and to chat to you guys. So kind of opening here, I'm also doing a Q&A, so don't hesitate to leave your questions in the comments. My list of worries, let's go. Point number 1 of 500, I'm joking, but basically, first, I have this identity as a self-taught sewist. I learned sewing during lockdown. It was very much like, okay, we need an activity to survive mentally during lockdown, because there was Zoom dance classes at the time. It wasn't quite the same. And, I feel like many people picked up sewing during lockdown because mental health. I've always been very proud and very attached to my identity as a self-taught sewist. And thinking that now I'm going to have formal training, I'm like, I can't go anymore and be like, yeah, I made it myself and I learned on my own and blah blah. And I know it's like silly and petty, right? But you do get attached to that story you put on yourself, and it's like, this is how I see myself as a self-taught person, someone who like, you know, is independent. I don't need help to learn my things, like I just go around and do it, you know, kind of like I prefer not going to classes, I prefer just like trying and learning it. But like here obviously I'm going to learn such a new expertise, like, because I was telling my wife, I was like, I can't do this course, like I'm a self-taught person. And she was like, yeah, but like there's a level of expertise you probably can never reach by doing it alone at home. Like, so yeah, so that's a small one. Or a big one, I almost didn't do the course just because of that, because it's like so strong in me that I'm self-taught, but soon I will be also formally taught, so you know. And then second, and you saw it in my little meltdown, I think, the clip before, I'm a minimalist sewist, and with just the first list of stuff I need to buy for the first classes, I was like, this is so much stuff. Like, we live in a 2-bedroom apartment. I don't have space for like a dress form and everything, and it just felt really overwhelming. And also, you know, I was very proud. Again, like it's that story I have attached to myself, being like, you know, if I need to draw a curve, I take my IKEA plate and I use this. But no, it's like I need 10 million different rulers and a French curve and everything. And it just like, I realized that the biggest hang-ups I had were the ones that were clashing with that image I have of myself, which is minimalist sewist. And now it's like, well, I probably won't have a minimalist material anymore at the end of this, because just I have to buy so much material. Like, it was quite overwhelming. It still is a little bit, because I have still not found tailor's shears. Like, I realized you can buy sewing scissors in shops in Brussels, but tailor's shears, like, have not found them anywhere. So I'm kind of planning to go to the first class, see what they advise, and then probably buying them online. But yeah, that's a big one, and like that's one that has been creating a lot of stress for me, to be like, where am I going to put the dress form and all of my materials, and it's going to be out of control, like sewing stuff everywhere. So yeah, so that's point number 2, that's the minimalist aspect and the thought of losing it, mostly. I did write as well. I'm going to keep working, and at least once the musical's over, end of November, it's going to be more manageable, but I'm still thinking full-time work and then, you know, part-time student on the side with late classes and all of Saturday is going to be a lot. So I'm also not so much, actually. I realize like I'm not so worried about it, but you know, I kind of cross my fingers that it's going to be fine, because I feel like it could be a lot for sure. What I'm really hoping is that currently I sew in the evening and on the weekend for fun. So if I'm in sewing class in the evening and on the weekend, it's fun as well. Is that a silly way to think? Like, I don't know, but that's how I'm coping with that point at the moment. Ooh, that's a big one. I worry to lose the love I have for sewing because of the structure. I will read the different points because it makes a lot of sense what I wrote. The fact that I can't just follow my inspiration, and that I will have to follow, you know, whatever the program says. So, you know, at the moment, if I want to, yeah, so like bike shorts, I'm like looking at my project, I'm like, I go ahead and do the bike shorts. I have something I'm making for my sister's birthday, I just do it. You know, I have my pile, and I start with whatever I want. I do whatever I want, and I do whatever my heart is telling me. Once I will be at school, I will do what school is telling me, and I really hope that that is not going to break my sojo. In general, like, I have really this fear of losing the love of sewing. A bit of my background, so I used to, I think like many people, at 18 I was like, I'm going to become a writer, I'm going to write bestsellers, blah blah blah. And I went into literary studies, and by learning about literature I was like, oh, I suck, I can never become a writer. And I discovered, and kind of like studying literature definitely killed any hope or desire I had to become a writer. And then during uni, then I was doing linguistics, which I loved, and I was baking, and I started baking for my cheerleading team, and I was like bringing stuff at every training. It was so fun. So when I was bringing stuff to cheerleading practice, so much fun, that was a hobby. And then I thought, oh, I'm going to turn it into a side hustle. But then after a couple of times having to wake up at 5 a.m. to fulfill orders so that, you know, it's all on time and everything, and I was trying to make it low waste, and it was a lot. It was a lot, and it kind of killed my joy of baking. And so I'm like, am I doing this a third time and having something I love, and I'm going to turn it into work or an obligation of some sort and disgust myself from it? I don't know. I really hope not. That's something I'm really crossing my fingers so hard, because the love I have for sewing, and like, again, that's one reason why I was like, I can't go into this program because I love this so much. I actually even said it to my career coach to tell you how important that is for me. This is my hobby, and this is a hobby I really need. Like, it means so much for me to do this and to sew. I couldn't lose it. And so I'm really worried about being put off it in one way or another through doing those studies. And that's something I'm feeling so strongly about, that if I feel like it's putting me off, I think I'm just gonna drop out school, because this is not my work. Like, I'm still gonna work on the side, so school is literally for fun. I'm going to try to remind myself of that as much as I need, and if it is not fun anymore, I'm going to drop out, because I do not want to stop loving sewing. Like, keep loving sewing is what I want most of all. Once more, my wife, who's very wise, she was like, oh, but because you're doing costume making, hopefully it's different enough from just like making your own clothes at home. I don't know, I guess that, yeah, if I had done fashion design, maybe it would have been closer to that aspect. I have no clue. That's one way I just have to trust it's going to work, and that if it doesn't work, I'm going to look out for myself. But that's why it's in the list of worries. We don't know. Let's keep going with the worries, shall we? I'm going to try to like keep it short, because I don't want to have the whole video being negative and about worries, but you know, that's how it is. Yes, I'm worried about the structure being too rigid, about the expectations that are going to be put on me. So, you know, at the moment I finish a t-shirt, I'm like, perfect, I like it. I mean, no, it's not perfect, but I like it, so it's perfect. But I'm really worried about an external person coming and telling me this work is bad. You know, you didn't do a good job, and that it would again like break my love of sewing. It's like I've never had so strong expectations put on myself except by myself. So having external expectations, I'm not sure how I'm going to deal with that. And then, that's when I realized later on, after I registered and after I started overthinking about everything, and it's the comparison trap, because I have been super happy with my sewing and stuff, but if I'm in a class with other people that are super talented, how will that make me feel? Will I feel like actually I'm like such a, small fish in a big pond? I don't know, we shall see. In general, I really have the what if the kids are not nice with me. I'm 31, going back to school. I'm going to be with 18-year-olds. I don't know, it's like all stuff where I'm going to have to see how it is. And then I love that in my overthinking, one of my point is I'm worried to overthink. Logical. But what I mean is that I'm worrying about overthinking my sewing and to not being able to enjoy simple sewing at home like I have been now, but that everything would need to be perfect, to meet a new standard that I would have reached or whatever. I just hope that because of school I will still be able to, whip something up at home and accept that it's not slapdash, but that it's kind of like, well, it's home and it's fine, and that everything doesn't have to be perfect and take 3 days to make type of thing. So yeah, and actually that's all of my worries. So I felt like I was drowning in worries, and now that I have said them to you, I feel like it's manageable, and I feel like, yes, they are there and they are very unknown, and obviously I'm not a big fan of unknown, but it's also, we're just going to have to go into it and see. And I really hope that going to school is going to be super enriching for myself, but also for you, and that I can really create super interesting content about what I'm learning in like technical sewing, and that it can make the channel also a little bit more technically interesting, and not just you looking at me struggling to do my everyday sewing. I just hope that it's going to be winning all round, and that it's not going to be awful. And so also a way I'm going to try to deal with all this, early September, when I make my video about everything I sewed in the summer and my autumn sewing plan, you'll see that I'm going to try to basically not have any goals for myself, or as few as I can make it, because I love having goals, but I'm going to try to really not have too many expectations, and to be like, I don't know how much time I'm even going to have at home to sew. Also, I have no clue how much homework we get. Like, imagine if it's like, no, whip up a 18th century costume dress. Like, I have no clue. And yeah, the fact that like I have no clue how much work is going to be required outside of class is also like a bit panic. Not panic, we're not panicking, it's fine. But that means I really don't know how much time I will have to do actual sewing for myself. So that's why I really prepare myself to not have too much hope, because originally I wanted to make jeans, a jacket and a backpack, and now I'm like letting go, totally letting go. We're gonna see what time there is and I'm just going to follow my heart. I really want my personal sewing during that period to be fully what I want to do on the moment and fully for enjoyment and not stressful at all. That's going to be the goal number one, to manage it and to let it be enjoyable. I haven't read the class list to you. That's what I wanted to do, because that is what got me super excited originally, and that's what I keep looking at when I feel panicked. So let me read you the class list. Oh my god, that's so exciting. I'm so excited. Okay, I feel so silly, but I'm like, go back to school. History of costume, sounds great. Introduction to sewing. I hope I'll be able to pass introduction to sewing. I feel like I have already, sewing and I have already been introduced. Should be fine. Cutting. I have a whole class about cutting. Great. Costume making. I'm glad that is part of the program. Drawing, that's one I'm super excited about, because I'm not naturally super good at drawing. I've been really working on it for my watercolor, but that's not something I have any natural talent in, so I'm really excited to have some classes about that to kind of like develop that aspect of things. And I'm excited to be able to maybe draw what I'm going to sew, and then yeah, that's something I'm really bad at, but I'm really excited to get better at it. Textile, staging, and then insurance and accounting. Which is funny because I currently work in insurances, so I'm excited to have more insurances classes, but you know, that's the part, because the school wants to prepare you to become a small business, so that's why you have insurances and accounting in your classes, even though it's not the most exciting part, obviously, of the sewing course. But I also have English classes, so it's like English specifically for technical sewing language, which obviously once more is a bit funny because I think I'll manage my English class. If in case you very confused at this point, I realize I didn't say, but I am French speaker and I live in Brussels, and that whole course is in French. So they start on the basis that you're a French speaker, that maybe you speak a bit of English, but you will need to be able to understand sewing specific vocab to deal with everything. And I'm like, well, that should be fine. That's again a class I'm not too worried about, but it's good because drawing is going to be challenging enough, so I'm glad that I have English to have an easy pass. You know, actually what is going to be hard is learning the terms in French, because I don't know so many sewing terms in French, and like just going to the fabric store, I'm always like, I want the thing that does that, and like I never know the terms in French. And it's not to be like, oh, I don't speak French. Obviously I speak French, but I have never sewed in French, so it's like literally words I never ever heard or used. It's like, do you know all the woodworking terms in English? Probably not. Even if you're an English speaker, like if you don't do it, you don't know the technical vocab, and I don't know the technical vocab in French. So it's gonna be interesting. I'm gonna get to learn it at school, which is good. I'm gonna look less at the fabric store in the future. So yeah, so that's it for my announcement. I don't know, is it exciting for you? I hope it is. I mean, I'm super excited. It's going to be quite 3 years if I do the whole degree. We shall see how it goes. I'm like trying to go cool as a cucumber. That's a very me, cool as a cucumber. That's the definition of who I am. I'm trying to go cool as a cucumber. I'm going to see how it goes. I'm not overthinking it. It's going to be fine. If it's not fine, I will drop out. But imagine me being a school dropout. That's also going to be tough. It's going to be fine. We trust that it's going to be all good. And yeah, I'm super excited. Don't forget that I'm opening a Q&A if you have any questions to ask about all this. The only thing I will not answer is which school I'm going to. And the reason is we have a very, very fixed timetable. And if I tell you which school I'm at, you're literally going to know on evenings during the week where I am quite late, because the classes finish quite late and I do not want anyone on the internet to know on those specific days of the week where I am quite far away from home. Just for safety reasons, I am going to keep that for myself. The only thing I can tell you is that there's kind of like different types of school for sewing in Brussels, and there's the ones that are more almost like a bachelor program or even master's program, where you don't actually do so much sewing. You have a lot of theory and you draw your collection and everything, and you learn how to be a designer, and then you send actually most of your work, and some seamstress does your final work for you. Like, you don't really do sewing. That's not what I'm doing. I'm really in a course where it's really hands-on. It's really going to become the seamstress more than to become the designer. So that's the only thing I want to say. Maybe in 3 years I'll tell you which school I was at, because it doesn't matter. But just to say, it's not a prestigious school where I'm going to be with like the next big designers of this world. Like, it's more practical and it's definitely work oriented, and yeah, so that's the only thing I wanted to say. But I'm sure you understand that I don't want to share the name of the school for now. That's it. I'll see you on Monday for my next video. It feels really good to have this on my chest and to be able to talk about it with you now, because I kept wanting to like reference to it and I was like, they don't know, I can't say it, but no, you know. So I'm really glad you are in on my little secret. Like this video if you liked it, subscribe if you want to, you know, see more, but also see how it's all going to develop with the costume making course that's coming. And oh, don't forget. And don't forget that you can make anything. Bye!